They say we should have known better than to fall so deep down into this rabbit hole we found. And I was thinking.
Hi, this is Nikolai, and you're listening to my dad, Rafal, co-host James Jardine, and featuring Mr. Jim Tiller on the one and only Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Plug in, listen up, and enjoy.
Deep into this pool of regrettable situations. Pitch black, think back to the last time that we were happy.
All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome down the Security Rabbit Hole to another edition of your favorite cybersecurity podcast, the Down the Security Rabbit Hole podcast. Blowing past episode 700, and this is 709, 10, 11, I don't know, something. I'm thrilled to be back with you guys. I am even more thrilled to have my friend Adam on, and it is going to be awesome. Maybe we'll reminisce a little. We'll let him talk about his history. But first, I'd love to have you introduce yourself, Adam, because I don't know that everybody knows you, but they probably should.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. So first, super happy. We've been trying to get into the rabbit hole for a long time. We finally made this happen. My background, I'm sure we'll get into it, but I was a CISO. I founded a security company with another buddy. Then I went on to be a CISO in larger organizations. Then I went on to run a bunch of product and engineering teams. And now I'm the GM of AI security business at Checkpoint. So I've spent a lot of time in security from the startup to the practitioner and the investor side. So looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, you have done all the things. I feel like you've had one of the more amazing careers that I can think of the people that ran in that original circle. I met you guys, I want to say 05, 04?
I mean, it feels somewhere around there. Right
before.
Remember, but that's about right. Yeah,
it was the first SpyCon, if you remember that. Right before the first SpyCon.
Yeah, 04, 05, somewhere right in there. Yeah,
somewhere in there. Yes, yeah. That was an awesome thing, and I was like, all right, I got to work with those guys at some point. And then our mutual friend Dave Whitlaw decided that he was gonna pull me in after I left GE, and he's like, you got to come do this. I was like, all right, fine. By that time, you guys had sold the thing to HP, and we just had the craziest. I had the craziest 6.5 years of my career, certainly. But like everything from I remember the first HP Software Universe, we got to hang out with Stephen Marley, which was just the absolute craziest thing. How did that even happen? How did we do that?
It's crazy to me because all you guys that were with Spy Dynamics, obviously, I was friends with a lot of the folks, but, didn't work there. All of you got to go to these crazy big events, get to hang out with Marley's, so I hear the stories, and, it's a great adventure for a lot of you. And so,
you were practically part of it. You were practically part of the group. You hung out with that. That was your circle.
I mean, fair enough, but I'll never claim to be part of anything that I wasn't.
That's true. Fair enough.
It's an amazing set of people. And if you look at just kind of where people went from there, it led to a lot of great research, a lot of further founding of companies, a lot of enterprise careers. It was one of those moments in time that if you were just there, if there was really cool stuff happening.
Yeah.
And so it's great to look back, and it's great to look where people are and kind of where some of the folks are going. I won't spill their plans, but I know where a couple are going, and there's some really interesting stuff.
There is. I think I love it because I think it just proves that those folks that you meet along the way that are all you just know that person's just never going to stop being the doing the thing that they're doing. They're just going to always be on to the next cool thing, the next new idea, the next new company. I always thought that about Caleb and Billy, just perpetually just on to the next new thing. Yeah. Those guys just never stop. And it's amazing to watch them go.
And look at Billy's trajectory. It's it's the trajectory I didn't predict. The research he went on to do, the company he went on to found, completely different space. Zoof, yeah. But it's one of those great classic examples of a really smart person that's just really curious and wants to do interesting things. You never know what direction they're going to go. And so his journey in particular was always just kind of fascinating to watch because he wanted to tinker and solve interesting problems. So, a great one.
I loved what you guys did with Blue Box Security. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
That was very early pioneering mobile. I won't spoil. I'll let you tell it.
Yeah. I mean, we were looking at several problems, and some weird things just sort of intersected. I was CISO at TiVo at the time. This was the explosion of like mobile apps in the enterprise. And I was frustrated because I was, the head of cybersecurity, and I wanted to use all these mobile apps to do things. I wanted to sign documents. I wanted to share things. I wanted to schedule meetings. But I didn't have a really good way to say, how can I trust these apps? How can I say yes to being able to use these apps in the enterprise? So I felt the same kind of disappointment that all the other employees felt. At the same time, my co-founder, he was researching a completely different angle that was around sort of family mobile device management and parental controls and stuff there. And the third kind of leg to this pillar was we had funded our own incubator, and we had a developer working for us full time. We had some designers working for us part time. And we had this idea of we will rapid prototype companies put in market to see what hooks. And so we kind of got one out there, and we realized, okay, that's not going to work. And we were working on the next ones. And that's where this whole mobile intersection came. And we just went down the rabbit hole, and really, nice little plug, really realized, okay, there's something here. And so a couple weird kind of moves. I originally didn't think it was going to work. And I ended up taking a job at Salesforce. And I think I was 3 weeks in at Salesforce when I realized, oh, this is actually going to work. Like, we just figured this out. And that's why I only stayed with Salesforce like 6 months. Great, still on great terms with them. But we went and raised, our Series A, and we got out there, and we had some great, amazing early customers. We had Netflix was our first customer, and then Starbucks.
I know, right? It's not a bad first get, Adam. Like, that's just.
I mean, look, it's when you're that small and you're that early, and you get these big companies, they have huge demands. And so it can be tough, but those are the companies that push and pull and force you into finding market fit. And
that's right.
It was maybe 2 years in, and we made the decision to slightly shift. I wouldn't call it a pivot, but repurpose how our technology went to market. And that really unlocked some stuff with Starbucks. And 4 years in, or about 3.5 years in, acquisition conversations started to rise, and kind of looked at the market, looked at the timing, looked at the offers, and we said, okay, this is the right path for us at that moment. And then, I had we did an integration period. I had a non-compete for a while, and then because my non-compete didn't start until I left, that's kind of why I left, and then went to enterprise. But it was an amazing, fun time where we were pushing the boundaries, and we were working side by side with Apple and Google, and just figuring out the art of the possible. So it was an amazing run. It was a really, really exciting.
That was super cool to watch you guys. And then you went enterprise for a while. I mean, for a long while. Now we've got you back on the dark side now, but you went enterprise for a long time, and you had arguably some of the coolest roles of anybody I know. That you did some stuff, man.
Yeah. It's it was a surprise that I stayed in enterprise for so long, even to me. I kind of didn't mean to be honest. When I left the acquiring company and my non-compete was kicking in, I looked around and said, okay, well, I can't really start another company because everything in my head was too close to what company was doing and would violate the non-compete. So I said, what can I do that's just really cool for a while? And I was figuring that out. And I think I was hanging out for 3 months, 4 months, and Walmart reached out. And, I've told the story a bunch of times that the first time they reached out, I was just like, I'm not interested. And then somebody I really trust, actually mutual friend, him, Vinny Liu. I got to talking to him, and he was like, you need to talk to Walmart. They do insanely interesting things. You just wouldn't know it.
Nobody would have guessed, right?
Nobody would guess, right? And so I talked to them, and, what I thought was going to be, just a year or two to work out my non-compete and then think my next idea turned into 5 years. And we were doing everything from figuring out how do you scale AppSec and network security and move into cloud around the world. I mean, so this was the US, this is a bunch of foreign markets, a lot of interesting markets. I'll leave it at that. All the way to how do you protect the satellite that Walmart owns from cyber attack? They legitimately own a satellite and have for years, but also GPS enabled trucks and autonomous vehicles, robots in the store. just a fun place to, you have these
Yeah.
problems. But on the other end, I was in DC all the time. I would go to DC to talk to policymakers about cybersecurity legislation and what good legislation looked like, what bad legislation looked like. Didn't always get my way, but tried to fight the good fight. And then I think at 5 years, I was having a lot of fun, but there was just other things that I was thinking about. And I actually thought I was going to leave enterprise. Fidelity reached out. They were looking for a CISO because I was deputy CISO at Walmart and then ran a bunch of the e-com and international stuff.
Again, not a small company, right? Like, it's not like you're going from small company to small. You're going from Walmart to Fidelity. Like, these are household brands everybody knows.
I mean, let's see. Walmart is the largest employer, only second to the U.S. Department of Defense and the Chinese PLA. So technically third in the world, but first private largest employer. I think when I was there, it was about 2.2 million people around the world.
God.
And had offices in a certain number of countries, but supply chain, everything operated in like 60 something countries around the world. So, there's a lot of interesting, just kind of weird conversations you would have that were kind of amazing. And then Fidelity, Fidelity's 85,000 people, give or take a little bit, but one of the largest asset managers in the world. So kind of the similarity here was Walmart, if the supply chain goes offline, that's a major food source problem for the United States. If Fidelity goes offline, that's a major liquidity problem to most households in the U.S.
Yeah.
So just kind of weird, interesting problems to deal with. And they called and said, hey, this is kind of what we're looking for on an engineering first CISO that can really lean in, but understands corporate, understands regulation, understands innovation. And I said, this is fun, probably my last CISO role, but let's do it. And sure, that was exciting. It was they lean into technology, unlike any firm that I've really seen. The CEO really sees technology as part of the future of the world. And so there was fun, just engineering and cyber problems to work on and things to design and build, because they do a lot of build internally, kind of amazing. Yeah. And then about 2.5 years into that role, I got asked to switch over and run all of the kind of the consumer side of products. So if you go to fidelity.com or use the mobile app and you want to trade and you want to interact with the AI chatbots, figure all of that out and then figure out how do we improve the customer satisfaction of these digital experiences? And how do we improve the customer growth and retention, the asset growth and everything? So I went from being the CISO to running these product teams, leading these engineering orgs, and the customer retention and growth and design and everything that goes with that. So it was that was about a 10-year journey between those two things that I thought was only going to be 2 years in enterprise.
How do you balance? Because that's something that listen, I thought I was big cheese when I built a AppSec program inside of General Electric, inside of GE Power.
That's big.
And moved it to consumer finance. We had a bunch of apps, but I can't imagine doing that at Walmart scale. Yeah. Just that many more people, that many more users, and more importantly, public facing web app, mobile app. Hats off, man. That's a hell of an attack surface.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a big thing when you go from being the CISO at TiVo and then divisional at Salesforce and then building a company and then going and jumping right into that where you're dealing with tens of thousands of apps that actually matter, even more apps than that, but the really critical ones that are running the company, that have the customer data, that make the cash registers ring, that tally the dollars, right. It's a whole different thing. And when you're dealing with teams that are distributed around the world and just they're at different level of understanding threats and severities and, organizations that have come together, maybe because new orgs have been created or through acquisition and everybody operates a little bit differently. Yeah. Honestly, it took a lot of learning to figure out how to navigate that and navigate that successfully. So it's not an easy thing by any means, but a fun challenge for sure.
What was because you came in as a technical guy, right? A lot of that was a lot of the debate for last 15 years is, do companies really need to settle on somebody that has a good technology first, as you said, at base, and then learns the business side, or is it good enough to be basically a business leader that has good technology understanding, but not necessarily going to bang out code? How did you navigate that? Because that kind of, I mean, in the wrong org, that would make you kind of like the tech guy is in the room, right? In the boardroom kind of thing. How did you avoid that?
Yeah. I think I'll give two answers. I'll give my answer and I'll give one I think probably matters more to people. I went into leading teams kind of early in my career. I think I figured out early on that I had this like really good, kind of technical background and ability. I'm not going to say the best by any means, but where I was really a little bit different was I saw the business side and I cared about that a lot. And then I could connect the dots between the two. So I went into leading teams early because that was just kind of my niche, if you will. And then I went and got an MBA that helped me learn a bunch of concepts and round things out. That helped. And I was very lucky that early in my career, people threw me into the right conversations. The first company I ever worked at was actually based out of Atlanta. We had really big customers that cared about security. And this was before security was a hot topic in the market. It was really only your big banks that cared at the time. And I remember getting pulled into a customer conversation, and I was there with like the divisional CTO of like one of the largest banks in the world and like their business partner. And I'm 22 years old and they're just grilling me on things. And I got completely run over.
But you need that earlier in your career so you don't get that later in your career.
Exactly. And I remember this business president in the company I worked for, and he'd been the founder of, what became that division. Like he founded a company that got acquired, and he, amazing guy, pulled me aside and said, do you understand what happened? And he walked me through it, and he walked me how to look at the situation. And then he taught me for probably the next 2 years. He would bring me to these customer meetings where appropriate. He would teach me these concepts. And so I was really lucky that there was this person that said, you're really good at the technical and you have this kind of acumen and understanding, but let me really teach you. And what I found out on that journey was he had the same thing in his career. He started in engineering and went on to found a company. Then I would say the other things for me was founding Blue Box. When co-founded Blue Box, it was one of those things where you had to learn so much so fast that a lot of these concepts came together really quickly. But what I would say for others that I've seen that they've done really well is where they didn't have those opportunities presented to them maybe was they were just curious. They went and understood the needs of others in the company and the incentives of others. So when they were seeing friction or somebody's like, hey, you have to move fast, stop slowing us down, they went and asked questions and learned the why, and then learned the whole business process, and then learned where the friction was happening, and then they could see the why the friction was happening. So I think, just that internal education helps a lot of people. My path was just slightly different. I got lucky.
I feel like I was there too, because I think I too had a great set of people that were like, hey, you kind of get this technical stuff, but you really going to need this. Like I didn't go get the MBA, and you were probably a lot more technically minded than I was, at least for a longer period of time. But I learned that I could translate. I think that was the important thing is you had a passion for understanding why we're truly here inside of a business, right? Because no company gets founded to do security stuff. I mean, to just do security stuff, right? You make a profit, you make money, you do this, you serve customers, whatever. But understanding your role, understanding kind of the bigger picture, understanding what is it that you do here and how do you contribute. Those are, I had a similar experience. I had a CTO at one point sat me down and was like, look, kid, I understand what you're trying to do. And I was like, uh-oh. And he said, this argument that you're presenting, he goes, this may sound good in your head, but let me explain. He goes, if suddenly technology goes away, we can pull out paper and pencil and draft tables and engineering stuff, and you can still get a paycheck. He goes, if the company goes away, he looks at me and goes, you understand, right? I was like, yeah, okay. That made it through the thick skull all the way into the brain cell, locked away. I remember that forever.
Yeah, and like I'll say like, and there's more people along my way. The CTO at Hulu was really helpful in this. Like, or sorry, not Hulu. He went to Hulu later, but at TiVo when I was there, and was helpful in this. And so the one thing I would say is, if I hadn't figured this out on that journey, doing the jobs at Walmart and at Fidelity would have been impossible. I would have never been successful. And it's not as if I was ready day one when I went in, but I would have never been successful. I needed that time and those cycles to understand these things. Because then when I landed in Walmart, I understood, to your point, like the business is there for a reason. So I said, what is our reason? And our reason is to make sure that these consumers get the products at the best price. Like that is job one. Everything is in support of that. How do I make that happen and make sure we are here operating tomorrow so they can buy bananas and milk and whatever else is they need, right?
Yeah.
And then same thing with Fidelity. So it's like, if I hadn't learned that early, I wouldn't have been successful. And, that would have been the first problem.
I got to say, kudos to that leadership team for bringing on board somebody that they knew they'd have to work with a little bit, but ultimately giving you the ability to grow, because I haven't encountered that a lot in my career. Usually, especially now, it's like, well, we need you to know everything you possibly could need to know for this job already.
Yeah.
Right. It's like that's not a thing. Like nobody knows, nobody walks into this organization knowing everything about this organization.
Yeah. I mean, like Walmart, I work for this great guy, Jerry Geisler, who's the CISO now at Walmart. And, when they hired me, they knew who I was, right? They knew my background. They knew I'd come from a startup. They knew that I was going to push hard on engineering and technical aspect, but that I understood how to do things. I also joke, I lived in San Francisco at the time, and we had a team in the Bay Area. We had obviously the team in Arkansas. And I joke, because I grew up in the South, that they also hired me because I could translate Silicon Valley to the South. Like I could speak both. I know both.
Southern.
The Southern. So I was like, this is why you really hired me. But no, it was an amazing team, and they invested in my growth. And, I became a corporate officer, while I was there, so I was an officer of the largest company in the world, which is kind of scary, at that age.
Also terrifying. Yeah, you're right. That is kind of scary.
I signed the control report for the quarterly financial filings every quarter, and it's like, Walmart is complex. It's hard to understand those things to sign off on them. So, definitely kudos to all the people in my career and thanks, that kind of gave me that advice when I needed it and gave me those shots.
What's the biggest skill you look for if you're hiring somebody to find the next, quite frankly, the next you, right? The next person that, like, all right, that person gets it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to teach them the other stuff, but like, that's the core. That's what I'm looking for. What are you looking for?
The biggest thing I look for is just how they think. I'm often just looking for people that are kind of what I call the big thinkers, right? They take the thing in front of them. They step back, they put some distance between themselves and whatever the problem is that's been presented to them, or, opportunity, whatever it is. And they ask themselves, like, what does this really mean? So let's say it's a problem. Is this a symptom or is it a problem? And what's the root cause? People that can employ, there's this thing Motorola created years ago called the 5 whys. My teams hate this because I do this to them all the time. And for those that have never read about it, the concept goes that if you ask why roughly 5 times, you're actually going to find the root cause of something and not the symptoms. It could be 3, it could be 7, but roughly. And people that can employ techniques like this naturally, right? It doesn't have to be a thing they sit down and do, but they naturally are curious about what was presented to them and they can work the steps of a problem. I think the people that I find that do that, they're the ones that it doesn't matter how technical or how deep they are in regulatory knowledge or, the business, they're the ones that can decompose the conversation, ask the thoughtful questions, and see the path where they need to learn or ask more questions. That's probably the biggest thing that when I see in people, like, I really appreciate, and I know there's something there to build upon.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because I think I love that you say that, because that's, I think, one of the few things you cannot teach. It's like, you can't teach somebody to be ambitious. You can't teach someone to be a go-getter. Yeah. Like, they either are or they aren't. I can teach technical, I can teach business skill, I can teach all these things. I can't teach the desire to get up in the morning and go learn something new.
Yes.
But and I think the other thing is that like, how do you intuitively know what question to ask to get at the answer?
Right.
And then I've run into that so many times, because you'll get because we have to, like, no, that's not the answer. Try again. Like, okay, but why? And eventually you start sounding like a 5-year-old. Like, why?
Yeah.
And people get really, I've seen people get really frustrated with me for this. They're like, well, I already gave you the answer. Like, no, but you've given me an answer. It wasn't the, like, we keep coming closer and closer and closer. Like, eventually you're going to really dislike me, but you'll give me the answer I'm looking for.
Yeah. And, I was just going to say, that leads me to the other thing that I often look for is people that have perseverance or resiliency, right? Because, take that example right there. If somebody said, because we have to, and you said, hold on, explain that to me, right?
Yeah.
You have to take that person on a journey to understand why their answer didn't give enough information for you to then help them with the problem they have. And then you have to do that 50 times in a week. But you can't throw your hands up and say, they don't get it. Because if that's your answer, if your answer is they don't get it, it means there's more you probably could have done. And sometimes it is they just don't get it, but and so have just people that will have that perseverance and they'll be balanced and they'll have that, ability just to move, just constantly move through those things in a very balanced, neutral nature. That's the second huge thing that I look for.
It's kind of funny how well what you just said can be said about like a good hacker.
Yeah.
Right. Knowing where to, like, because you've got this big complex problem. You got an app, device, whatever it is, and it's just sitting at you, and you're like, "Wow, that's big and complex." You go, "All right, well, where do I poke to like make it fall over? How hard do I have to poke it?"
Yeah.
And that's exactly the right skill set.
That's it. And that's why I often say, and I know many others have said this before, so maybe I'll say it as this is why I really agree with it. Is hackers are just generally curious people, and that curious mindset can be applied to so many things and create so many interesting opportunities if people just attach it to whatever they're interested in. So maybe they want to stay in that offensive security mindset, or maybe they want to move to solving big complex organizational problems, right? That just general mindset can be applied to so many things that people want to, that hackers just make really good, really good focused, solutions oriented employees across companies.
Yeah. As long as I say the caveat is as long as their compass points in the right to north. Yes. Right. Because I've had people that I've worked with and around that have what I think is great knowledge, but their intentions are less than purely altruistic, and you're like, okay, that's really cool, but I don't know if I should be doing we don't know if I should be doing that, right? And it's such an easy. I think that's such an easy, particularly for us, right? Because we look at problems, you're like, wow, I could solve this if I just. And then like Jiminy cookies that pop up on your. I had one of those moments. In fact, I had exactly that moment with a friend at the time that was like on an airplane saying, "Hey, I can hack this thing," and I was like, "You probably can, but you probably shouldn't."
Right. The you can, but should you conversation?
This is possible, but a terrible idea.
Terrible idea.
Wait till you've got a harness plugged in a lab somewhere while flying. Probably not, but going from a CISO to starting a company to a deputy CISO in a very large organization to a CISO gig, it's a lot of movement. If you look at it, you're like, well, but you kind of did this. But if you think about it logically, it's sort of this high trajectory, right? Because even if you're like the big cheese at a smaller org, you jump into the really big ones, and you're like, oh, so much more.
Yes. It was interesting because when I went to Walmart, most people thought I was just going to go start another company or I was going to be a VC full time. And sometimes it's really hard to understand the moves that I'm making, probably because I forget to tell people the why sometimes. Back to the 5 whys, people should ask me. But I've always just gone after things that I thought was really interesting. And these crazy big scale problems are really interesting to me. And it's partly because I'm never sure if I can solve those problems. Like Walmart, I went there and I was just like, this is a really interesting set of problems. Like the answers were not that obvious. It wasn't you're going to go to training and then, okay, I know how to solve this, because they break every product on the planet. Their networking looks different than everybody on the planet. It's just this weird scale that you can't appreciate until you're in there because of how many years they've existed, how many years of technology they've been building, how many technical patents they have, and tech you use that they were the ones who created the patent and then gave it away. Like, it's just that kind of monstrous. And so when I did that, people were like, oh, well, why didn't you build another company? That is success. And I'm like, no, I've had success. This is another version of success, but also what I want to do. And they said, well, why didn't you go to be the CISO? And I turned down CISO roles, and I explained exactly what you said. Like, there was this bigger set of things that I wanted to do. And sure, I could go get a CISO title, but it didn't mean the same as being able to go do these things. And so I wasn't very oriented on the title or the leveling. And to be honest, I've always just kind of followed the really interesting things rather than a career path. And that's just, for me, it's led to some fun moments.
Yeah, I think there's this long running conversation of like, what's the career path of a cybersecurity professional?
Yeah.
And I know we can come up plot linearly, right? You start as an analyst, you work your way up to manager, and you can eventually become a CISO, but that's not for everybody.
Yeah.
There's plenty of folks that I know that are absolutely killing it as a reverse engineer or as a SOC analyst or as whatever they're doing. And there is no requirement for them to make great money. They have autonomy. They have fame or whatever, or acknowledgement or whatever it is that they're looking for. And I think this is unlike, if you go join a big four or whatever, you're like, okay, if you're sitting here too long, you got to, today you're a junior analyst, you got to become an analyst, and you got to become a senior analyst. Like, you got to keep going. Yeah. We have so much room under this tent. Yeah. And there's so much vacancy. And I think since you and I started, because we're roughly similar ages. Yeah. Like, one person could be like, I'm the security person for this company. Now you're like, I'm the security leader for this part of this company.
Yeah. And, and I'll tell you, like, I help people find jobs occasionally, right? I connect like a recruiter's like, oh, I'm looking for the best person for product security for is engineering first company, et cetera. And I go, oh, hold on, I have a friend, right? And so I see the job specs, and there are folks that, are not the CISO, that are second, they're direct reporting to the CISO, that make, a lot more money, have bigger scopes, doing more interesting things than a lot of the CISOs in the market. And, what I say to people is, what makes you really happy? Because what makes you happy is what's going to lead you to a great career. And so if you want to work on like big AppSec problems, like, you don't have to be a CISO. There's like these amazing AppSec programs out there. If you're chasing money, then like, look, there's lots of, gigs for that. If you're, whatever it is, whatever people are interested in, it doesn't have to be the CISO these days. There's just these big teams underneath the CISO that create a lot of opportunity and a lot of, just opportunities for learning, not only just doing things every day.
All right. I feel like I would be doing us all a disservice if I didn't say, tell me about what you're doing now, because you went to work for a company that I loved. Good Lord. I'm going to date myself a little bit. Putting 3.41 on top of IPSO boxes, IP440.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Yeah. I want to know how many, I would love to just know how many people hear what you just said and like either A, actually know what we were just talking about, or B, had the experience with it, because it's a deep knowledge and it's a dated knowledge. We were both there. I'm not calling you old. We were both there, but also an amazing time in technology right there. So I'll get into it. Let me tell the story a little bit. So I was at Fidelity. I'd gone from being the CISO to, running this consumer side, and I was having a lot of fun. Felt it was a great company, and I was doing like these amazing things. And, I'm like reading the consumer comments on Reddit, and I'm talking to my design team, and we're launching these AI powered apps for employees and for customers. And we're just like, we're leading the future. And it was kind of amazing. But there was this thing that was nagging at me in the back of my mind. I was investing in cybersecurity companies still. And I kind of wanted to bring my worlds back together. I missed this world, but I had to figure out what was the version.
Like the mafia, Adam. Once you're in for life, man. You're coming back no matter what.
I know. I think there was a point where I lied to myself and said that wasn't going to happen. So I learned that lesson. But I wanted to come back, and I just said, what's the version that I want to come back to, right? Like I was being a CISO, it was amazing, it's great, but I was like, that wasn't the thing that I'm impassioned about right now. And I was kind of talking to a couple CEOs that I know and just sort of like looking at the market and understanding what was out there. And I was thinking about maybe I'd build another company. Did I want to build a new VC firm? I was kind of going back and forth. And I was having what started as a random conversation with Nadav, the CEO of Checkpoint. He's been the CEO for about 2 years now. And I was just talking about the market. We were talking about what I was investing in, and he kind of laid out the strategy for the company. I won't go dive into all of that, but laid out the strategy for the company and said, there's this amazing company with these amazing customers, highly profitable company, really strong customers around the world. And we have the capital to invest and really just lead markets. Here's what I'm up to. And we got talking about AI security. And it goes a little broader, but I won't go on a sales pitch. And I'd been investing in AI security companies. They'd been getting acquired, and I thought there was more to do. So on one hand, as an investor, I was really happy with 18-month acquisitions at great multiples. But I felt as an operator, I was like, there's more to do. Stop getting acquired. So, a couple months ago, I started as the GM of the AI security business. So I run the AI security business unit, and we offer up a set of products and services to secure AI usage in the company. So whether your employees are using agents on the desktop or you're building fully or semi-autonomous agents to operate across your enterprise, we have, 2 sets of solutions, one for each of those and some services. And
that's cool.
I leaned into this company because of the story of the company, how long it's been around, the stability, the profitability, the ability to invest and be customer first is what attracted me here versus some of the other companies or going to start a new company. So I want to be mindful of not getting into a sales pitch, but like there was a deep, deep reason that I said, oh, this is the place to now scale and do this next thing.
That's awesome. Like I said, I've known Checkpoint for forever.
Yeah.
Back before they created what unaffectionately, and I know they didn't like us calling it this, but before Splat became a thing. I remember like we were putting our Rich Ryan, our sales guy came in. I think Andy Callett was involved still. Andy, if you're listening, he's another Atlanta guy here, but like they're talking about how instead of having to go buy the hardware to go put a specialized piece of hardware like the Nokia IPSO platform to put Checkpoint on, you could just take any deal, was it 380 at the time or whatever, throw the CD, and in 30 minutes you'd have a Checkpoint firewall. And he goes, yeah, they're calling it secure platform. I just look at it and go, Splat? He goes, no, secure platform. I'm like, dude, it's Splat. And it's kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I know there was not a lot of love for us calling it that, but it was funny. It was awesome though. Like any commodity hardware can pull, almost virtually anything can pull up a friggin' Checkpoint instance. That was amazing. And then I'm a little sad that Zone Alarm disappeared a little bit. Can you do something about that?
Funny enough, Zone Alarm came up in a conversation yesterday. I won't share the details, but there is an endpoint security product that exists. The company offers one, and the technology has not fully disappeared. But yeah, there was actually a conversation around that yesterday. Funny enough,
that's kind of funny.
Coincidental. That's awesome. Yeah, and if you look back at the innovative things they were doing back then, and pull forward the cash that they have to invest and raise to do acquisitions like this, like AI security business. We did a couple acquisitions. We're on the other side of the integration, and we're just leaning in with our customers, and great customers. Thank you all that are design partners and that are like helping me really lead this market and where we're going. And that's you take that defense DNA that they've been doing for so long, that innovative DNA, and that's what attracted me to push to the future. So, pretty excited, different from my last 2 jobs, but as you said, back to the dark side. It's awesome being able to get to work with security teams again every day. And I drop in not for sales, I drop in just to go, walk me through your problems and co-design with them. And, we hand some of we share IP with some of our customers. I missed that a lot. So it's been exciting.
That is, see, you just hit the reason I went to the dark side and I'm staying. I love the idea of getting in front of somebody who's like, I can't figure this out. I'm having trouble. Like I travel with whiteboard markers. I love solving, like, give me the difficult thing and just let me go bang my brain on it and mill it over, figure it out. It's being able to figure out complex problems. And I think the thing that's fun is everybody thinks they have this unique problem that nobody else has. It's only them. It turns out through my 30 some odd years, like these things are patterns, right? Like this part of the industry, it may not look exactly the same, but broadly speaking, I could create a framework that like I can make, give option A or option B and it fits everybody.
Yeah.
And it's such a fun, like it is super fun to do what we do. I think continue to be blessed with the fact that like we get to go meet interesting people, solve interesting problems.
Yeah.
And get paid for it, which is like, the cool thing on top of that.
I know. It's sort of like if I looked back my teenage years, my early 20s, when I was coming into the industry, the things that I really enjoyed was I enjoyed sitting with my coworkers or sitting with people from industry and just talking about ideas and then saying, hey, let's work on that together. Or, oh, wow, that's a great tip. Thank you. Let me go try that. And, over my career, I'll speak for me, over my career, as I go through and I build these teams and I run these, 1,000, 2,000 person teams at these different companies, I got further and further away from that. And I loved what I was doing. It was amazing. But if I go back to the kid inside me, like, this is the stuff that I love. So don't get me wrong. I love running a business. It's amazing. I'm able to go acquire companies. I'm able to invest where my customers need product. But it also gives me the time to spend 50, 60% of my time just talking to security teams, CISOs, CIOs, CTOs, or even like my own AI research team. I have an AI security research team, but one of the companies we acquired, they actually came from like building autonomous flight systems. Like they are proper AI researchers. I just get to spend like an hour, every 2 days with them just saying, what's the future look like? This is cool. And it's so much fun. And I'm glad to be back with that, and it gets me back to the conferences. So whether it's the big ones, whether it's, RAFCon, I don't know if anybody knows about that. Best con ever.
Hey, you started this. This, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, for everybody that has ever asked what the hell RAFCon is and how it got started, it's this guy right there. It's his fault. Adam started this whole thing by writing a post on Dark Reading 1,000,000 years ago. And here we are. So we're definitely going to get together in Vegas coming up.
I'll be there.
You absolutely have to be there. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I will be there. We will resurrect RAFCon. Such a blast. So, so it's super, super fun.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. Hey, thanks for spending some time, man. This has been fantastic. By the way, you got to work. I'm pretty sure you got to work with one of my, and towards the end of your Fidelity time, with one of my other favorite people in the industry. That's Jason.
Yeah, Jason was my successor when I moved out of the CISO role. Jason backfilled me. So we had about a year and a half overlap.
That dude is like that. Hey, did you ever get a chance to see some of his swords?
No. I did in some photos. I did in some video, but not in person.
That guy is amazing. Like I forget which martial arts it is, but like he's trainer. He's got all these ranks and he's got all this amazing hardware. Like that dude was awesome. And he's got a kind of a career like you go through, this progression of like solve this problem. Then somebody goes, hey, I got a problem for you. You want to try to solve this thing?
Yeah.
Right. And this is, you know what? I can't think of a better way to spend time and get paid for it than doing what we love.
I know. Like somehow they haven't figured out that like we've unlocked the system. We have found the answer.
That's right.
Right. And it's like,
that's right.
Waiting for somebody to take it away or change the game. But,
no. Don't get anybody any ideas.
No.
Let's just keep doing this until we're done.
Enjoy
somebody
it.
asked me, what does retirement look like for people like you guys? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I
the same thing, but with a margarita and a cigar in hand on a beach somewhere. Like,
right? Like, I don't know. Maybe one day my mind changes, but right now, like, I can't see it. And the folks that are a little bit older
Right.
than us that started retiring, that I worked with at the beginning of my career, it's really interesting. I see a lot of them not leaning into the golf course, leaning into research, and just still doing fun things. I don't know. Maybe that's the future. We'll see.
We'll see. It's working because it's doing cool things because you want to, not because you have to. And that is the greatest blessing I think any of us can ever get. Adam, thanks for joining us. This has been awesome. Thanks for Checkpoint for giving us some of your time. I look forward to seeing you in Vegas in just 2 months.
2 months, yeah.
2 months. All right. I just got to book a flight soon. Well, awesome, man. I'll see you out there. I'll see you at RAFCon. Hey, you guys, if you're listening, I'm pretty sure Rafi and I are going to do RAFCon again. It's always at the same spot. It's that back bar opposite of House of Blues. If you remember where Eye Candy is at Mandalay Bay, you walk around the back. It's that long bar. We're always hanging out there. I don't know which day it's going to be this year because we have to figure out like what our schedules all look like. But yeah, now we got Adam. Adam's coming. This is going to be fantastic.
I will be there.
We're gonna bring the game. Then we got to get Caleb to show up because that would just be it right there.
We got to bring him, Mike. We got to get him to show.
Yes.
We got to get the whole original crew to just like be there. It'd be amazing if we can get everybody.
We take a group photo every year, and that'd be an epic one. So all right. That's enough. That's it for us for now. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for listening, you guys out there. If you, as everybody else says, but I try not to put it in your ears too much. If you enjoy the show, I appreciate a good thumbs up or whatever it is, and a review if you've got it. Give us a rating. That's how people find us. That's how the algorithm suggests to go check out these guys. And I get to get people like Adam to show up because dispense knowledge in large buckets. Thanks, dude. It's been great having you.
Great to be here.
All right, thanks. Thanks for listening to us. This has been another episode of the Down to Security Rabbit Hole podcast. I'll catch you guys another time, another place. Cue that awesome music, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye. Take care.
This is Bella. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave my dad a review and share this with your friends. Bye.